Today's topic is going to be transforming your professional services business for 2022. First of all, joining me on the call today, I've got three experts. We've got Derek Stewart, Tom Freer, and Andrew Marmont. Welcome to the call, guys.
Thanks, David.
2021 is nearly over for some of us. Some of us wish it was over. But really, we're talking about change. And one thing that this whole COVID situation has caused is forced innovation in a lot of industries, especially in the professional services industry. We've got these guys on the line today because they're experts in their own fields. And they've really got a lot of insight because they work with a lot of people in the professional services industry. So maybe we'll just start. I'll go left to right on my screen. So Derek, you're first up. Maybe a bit about you, your company, and what do you see as the transformation that people need to be looking at for their professional services business?
Yeah, thanks, David. Derek from Flat Planet. What we do, outsourcing to the Philippines, so providing a lot of great back office roles for professional service firms and other firms. So a big trend I've always noticed with professional service firms is the nature of the cost structure, the business model. Often almost everyone needs to either be bringing in revenue or doing billable work. And so often tend to be very underinvested in the back office. I think some of that sort of cracks below the surface were really exposed sort of last year and this year. So I'm seeing trends towards people realizing what part of the back office, maybe non-directly revenue generating, but supporting and gluing together the rest of the business can be helped with and transformed in the new year.
So offshoring has been around for a while. What's different now that makes it a critical part of the transformation?
I think there used to be two conversations. It used to be the person's not in the office, number one, it's remote. And then number two, the person's in another country, so there's cultural, geographic, legal, other sort of challenges. But I think the remote conversation has sort of ended, which was always sort of half or more of the conversation. Everyone's used to Zoom, everyone's used to work from home. 5, 8, 10 years ago, there's a lot of questions around VPNs and tech and cloud and security. And so much of that has been probably jumped 10 years forward in the last 2 years. So the question is really, for most people now, just I need good people. I'm not too fussed about the details and where can I get good people? So the conversations have rapidly evolved away from nitty gritty on the tech or the geography.
Interesting. So it's really now we can access the world and the technology is caught up. So a lot of the questions or the fears that we had in the past about security and those sorts of things have gone away. So it's much more accessible, almost non-negotiable in transforming for the next calendar year. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think absolutely. And it's just now people just want good people. They want good talent. And like I said, all the little details that people sometimes get stuck on with something new, it's a bit different, it's a bit out of the box. All those details are not issues or they don't slow down the decision and the thought process like they used to. Brilliant.
Thank you. Which brings me on to the next speaker, Tom, talking about technology and talking about the acceleration of technology. What do you see? First of all, tell us a bit about you and your business, what you do.
Yeah, Tom Freer, my business is Wintech. And we're an outsourced IT partner for mid-sized professional services firms. So we look after all the technology that the guys need to rely on for remote delivery and remote presentation and everything in between. So that's us.
So what's the last couple of years taught you about what people in the professional services business need to transform?
Yeah, look, we've seen, and I think Derek tapped on it, but we've seen a massive amount of transformation already in the last 18 months, 2 years, people being forced to go down that path. But I think the big thing is now is an element of embracing that change further and then really leveraging that investment that you probably have made or have made over those past few years, seeing what more you can get out of it, particularly around that digitization and automation and workflow. We're going to continue to see people working remotely, working internationally, working from home. So what businesses need to focus on now is those manual hands-on processes that they have in their business. How do we make them electronic? How do we digitize them?
Yeah, it's almost like we're moving into second gear in terms of technology now. The first gear was everyone goes online. And most people were suffering Zoom fatigue. They're saying, I'm staring at this screen all day.
Yeah.
Starting to realize that you can manage that. And actually, this is quite a powerful tool in terms of accessibility to people, in terms of connection. And so now it's a matter of how do you optimize and how do you make it better? How do you make it part of your operating system?
That's right. And look, I think there's been an element of it's proven to people that it can work as well. From a technology perspective, we've always said, at least for the last 3 to 5 years, this is what you can do with it. You can do these things. You can work remotely. You can deliver. But there was always a reluctance. This forced that change. Like COVID forced that change, and people are now believing it in that sense. And yeah, it is time to make the most of it.
Yeah, fantastic. And last but not least, Andrew Marmont, we talk a lot about socialization. And one of the things that all these lockdowns have really made apparent is people's need to communicate and to be part of a community. Maybe give us a bit of an intro who you are, what you do, and what your view of this transformation is.
Yeah, thanks, David. Andrew Marmont, Concurve Content Marketing, and we help experts share their knowledge through a holistic marketing communications approach.
Yep.
And I think for the way that we've seen from a professional services standpoint is that competition is still the main inhibitor for growth for many in Australia. And the reason why is if you're going to get more competition, then it becomes a race to the bottom because people compete on price. And they do that because they're not exactly sure about what their value is to the customer, what their value is to the organization. So I think it's really important to get clear about what is your value proposition, or what's your unique selling point, or what's your differentiator, and then how do you then solve problems that your customers have. So for me, it's always been, and I think it will continue to be really important to have some clarity about what makes you different in professional services, but then also if you're going to retain and strengthen the customer relationships that you do have, what sort of approach are you going to take that's going to be relevant, and it's going to be a long-term approach from communication point of view that's going to help you keep those good customers, they tell other people, and you're actually going to then have that growth that you really want, but not the expense of dropping your prices.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you sort of touched on something there, which is this: most professional services get their business through word of mouth or network. And we've been hamstrung on the networking side. We can't go to events and socialize and meet people. So now the focus is on your ability to communicate through the electronic channels. And I think when people don't think they have to up the ante there, they're falling behind. And I think if you look moving forward, because there's always two kinds of change in the world. There's cyclic change, like the weather, and then there's structural change. And I think with the leap in technology that's occurred, I can see now it's non-negotiable. Zoom is here to stay, or Teams, depending on which one you prefer. It's also non-negotiable that your workers will work remotely. So whether they're in this country or out of this country, the gap is closer. And the other thing that's not negotiable is that people are expecting your communications to be world-class. Okay, gone are the days where you could just send a sort of rusty old newsletter. I think people are expecting quality communications that actually give me a sense of the brands that I'm dealing with. I suppose today's message is really that there is a transformation occurring. It's a structural transformation. And I think especially in the professional services industry, that's the one that's poised best to take advantage of this tech change. Okay, white collar workers, they don't need to be there. They're not like tradies. They don't need to go out on site to do stuff. They can work from anywhere. But sharpening these tools is really critical. So let's wrap this sort of idea up. If you're going to think about one, actually, I want to ask a question. What's the biggest mistake that you guys are seeing people making in relation to your field? So, Derek, when it comes to outsourcing, what's the biggest mistake that people are making that you see?
Yes, I think it's what I hear a lot of is a lot of people waiting for when will it go back? When will it go back to normal? And I think you can't keep sort of looking at the past and waiting for the go back. It's really, well, what's next? What can we change and do forward? So for a lot of people, it's talking about a new role that they might not have even thought of. So I'm talking a lot of professional service firms about an inbound lead manager, which they never traditionally think of, but it's a whole new role, new way of thinking, not going back, but moving forward. And that's a trend I'm seeing the more successful professional service firms saying what's new, what's different, what's extra, not hoping when will it go back like the good old days.
Yeah, fantastic. What about yourself, Tom? What are you seeing out there that is a mistake that a lot of people are still making?
Yeah, look, I think from my perspective, it's people not looking at that lost opportunity cost with making that investment or that leap. Similar again to what Derek's saying, looking at that new opportunity or that new person, looking at the technology and waiting for it to break before doing something. That's the worst thing that you can be doing. Let's start looking at it now and looking at what you can do with what you've got, and then what needs to be invested over that next time to get it to the next level.
Yeah, because it's definitely a strategic advantage for those people who are keeping up with the tech and becoming more comfortable with it, as opposed to those people who are being forced into using that tech.
Definitely.
Yeah, awesome. And Andrew, what about you? What are you seeing as a mistake that people are still making?
I think they're just not clear about what makes them different. And if they can't articulate that, then they're in trouble when it comes to sales and even talking to their existing customers. So to me, it's all about getting clarity on what makes you different. Why should I buy from you? And then why should I keep doing business with you?
So just being really concise with your messaging. Yep.
Absolutely. Easy as that.
Awesome. Guys, look, I'm mindful of time. I want to thank you very much for just chiming in today. Really interesting to hear what you believe people should be doing to transform their professional services business for 2022. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.